Hello everyone, Pastor John here. I'm with Pastor Dan Hix, and guess what? His father was the first pastor of Calvary International Baptist Church. So Dan, could you let us know when you went to Taiwan, when your family went to Taiwan?
Right. It's amazing. I was 4, so it was 1958. But there's a whole lot about that first trip to Taiwan I can still remember, even though I was really, really so young. We moved from North Carolina by train to San Francisco, and then by boat to Hong Kong, and then by boat to what is it, Geelong?
Yes.
Yeah. And so it was quite a long trip, and a lot of memories on that trip.
How long were you guys there at Calvary?
Well, my dad started the church probably not long after we arrived in Taiwan. It began as a Bible study in our home, and within 3 years, probably by 1961, there was a church building, the one that's there now. And my dad was a pastor there until leaving Taipei in 1971.
Wow.
So I graduated from TAS in 1971. I came back to the States early that summer to get ready to go to college here in the States. And the next letter I got from my parents told me that they were moving to Okinawa. So my dad resigned at Calvary and took a church in Okinawa.
So how many of you were? You have brothers?
I do. Yeah, I have 3 brothers. There are 4 of us. I was the oldest. We're all very close together in age. My youngest brother, Phil, was born in 1960 in Taipei at the Seventh-day Adventist Hospital. I don't know if that's
still there. That's the church that I talked to you about.
It's part of the hospital? Yeah, that's where he was born. I remember. I had my appendix taken out there.
So what was your deepest impression? And you stayed at the parsonage, right?
Oh yeah.
So
So
what's your deepest impression of the parsonage?
Of the parsonage.
Yeah.
Well, I was very impressed by the parsonage. It was, it felt like for the first time really our own home. It was brand new. We were the first ones to live there. And of course, with 4 children, you kind of filled it up. It was always a busy place. Didn't think about it because I didn't know any differently. I didn't think about the fact that we were just right in the backyard of the church, and so folks kind of knew where you were all the time.
That's great.
We had many times a Sunday school class would be meeting in our home just because they needed the space. There were several in those years. There were several single American military personnel who came to the church, so almost every Sunday, one of those 1, 2, 3, 4 of those guys would come home with us for dinner. So my mom was pretty flexible. She would just prepare enough for all of us, and that was exciting to have them there.
Any impression of the church while you were there?
Well, sure. It was. I didn't really have. I think I told you before. I really didn't have anything to compare it to. So. I didn't realize just how unique it was with people from everywhere. And it was very much mostly American military personnel. One of the things I've thought about since then is that perhaps you had a board of deacons or you had a committee. Well, you had people on that committee who in their work life were different ranks, maybe high officers or maybe just enlisted personnel.
Wow.
But you never knew that. I mean, I was never aware that someone outranked somebody else in their work life. They were just Christian brothers and sisters.
That's great.
And those are the people. When I think about people who taught me what it meant to live with faith, and really kind of taught me the basics of the Christian life. They're the ones.
Wow.
They're the ones, and I'm grateful.
That's great. So do you have a message for Calvary of today, 2022?
I am so grateful. That's the main word. I'm so grateful. because John is so faithful to put pictures and share stories about what's going on at Calvary on Facebook, I kind of keep up with you, and it's exciting. And I always have the opportunity to tell my dad. You know, my dad is 97 years old now, but doing amazingly well. And he usually asks me, "Have you heard anything from our friends in Taiwan?" Just about every week. So I'll tell him, "Well, Sunday I saw this picture and that picture, and this happened at the church." And he says every time, he said, we knew that one day probably the American military presence would be gone from Taiwan. We had hoped that the church would continue just the way it is now. He's so grateful.
That's wonderful.
That's the way I feel.
Well, we know that you guys, your dad, your mom, your whole family, you guys set the foundation there.
Yeah.
And today, after 60 years or so, we're still building on that foundation. So we're grateful, we're thankful for what the Lord's used you guys for. And for Calvary of today, what we're doing there now, we don't know what's going to happen later, but we're also building on the foundation. So that's the Lord's plan.
It is.
So it was so good to see you.
It's good. I can't quite believe this. I'm gonna have to sit in my office and think about it.
All right.
For a while. This has been a blessing. It's been
a blessing for us. So this is for you guys, just to let you guys know that we have the Hicks family, that the first family there, and currently we're the one in line in 2022, and the Lord's got a plan. So thank you, Dan, and
you're welcome.
good to see you. God bless.